So I ran up to this strange man in the woods and said, "Mister, what are you doing?" He says, I'm fishing. I go, "Oh, I'm fishing too, but I don't know what you're doing." He goes, "Oh, I'm fly fishing." And he handed me the rod. He goes, try it.
The hardest part guiding sometimes can be having people who can't cast, right? And you want to have a basic way, an easy way to teach them the basics so they can be productive.
You know, my grandfather, Ed Grant, used to say, in order to tell a good story, you take an absolute fact, even if it's a little one, and keep building on it till it's a good story. But we don't have to because our experiences have been real.
Welcome to the Flyline Podcast, where we enjoy the interesting stories behind the legendary guides and luminaries connected to Maine fishing. I'm Michael Jones. Today, we're heading a bit farther north as we welcome our new guest, Paul Ostiguy. Paul Ostiguy is an experienced lodge owner and passionate angler whose love for remote waters has taken him deep into the wilds of Labrador and beyond. As the operator of several renowned lodges, Paul offers world-class opportunities to fish for large native brook trout, world record landlocked salmon, as well as magnificent Arctic char and sea-run Atlantic salmon in some of the most breathtaking locations in the world. In this episode, Paul shares what it takes to run a successful remote fishing lodge, from managing energy and supplies to facing the daily surprises that come with wildlife and weather in the remote wilderness of northern Canada. He recounts memorable fishing stories and unique characteristics of the rivers and the ongoing improvements being made to enhance the guest experience both on and off the water. Outside of discussing the legendary Mackenzie River Lodge, we also talk about Paul's other ventures, including operating the Arctic char-focused Inukshuk Lodge and reopening the legendary Delay River Lodge for Atlantic salmon fishing. Beyond the rivers, Paul reflects on his leadership work with the Quebec Federation of Outfitters and how his passion for this world ultimately led him to meet his life partner, Anne, through their shared work with tourism development in the region. It comes with deep respect and personal gratification to introduce the Flyline Podcast audience to a person who has crossed the line from a professional acquaintance to a unique and personal friend. Paul Ostiguy, welcome to the Flyline Podcast.
Thank you very much, sir. Here we are in Quebec City, meeting up the night before you go into our lodge in Labrador, my little paradise in Labrador, for the third time.
Yes, it is. I love Labrador. This is a wonderful trip. I always look forward to it. And you've been a tremendous host.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We have a great number of customers from New England. It's really our market because it basically is the same traditional fishery of native brook trout.
Right.
And landlocked Atlantic salmon, which makes it unique.
Absolutely. It makes it unique. And that's what I want to put in context for the audience is why do I have this man from Canada on a Maine-based fly fishing podcast? Here's why. So many of my listeners, our audience, are the people that come to your lodge. People have been coming with Carol Ware back in the day from Fins and Furs. And coming with people like Steve Barry, who's been on my podcast. So it's extremely relevant because Mainers, their heart goes pitter-pat for brook trout and ouananiche, landlocked salmon. And we don't catch giant brook trout and giant landlocked salmon in Maine anymore. Some, but not much. You catch them readily.
Yes, I'll tell you, some years I've had as much as 1/3 of our customers were from the state of Maine, and if not, they'll be from New Hampshire or Vermont or Massachusetts, and they fish Maine for those reasons. And a couple of years ago, I heard something from a guest at the Marlborough Fly Fishing show that stuck in my mind. He was looking at all the photos of our landlocked salmon, and 10 pounds is pretty common for us. And he said, "My God, this is Maine on steroids." And I said, "No, it isn't, sir." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "This is Maine 100 years ago before the logging roads got in." And it's basically the same in Canada in that anywhere a road will get tends to get fished heavily. We are protected by difficulty of access. That's
Impossible.
the only thing.
Impossible.
It's extremely remote. And some parts of our river, like last year, we had a visitor come and my guides brought him to pools that hadn't seen an angler in 6 years. Right. It's pretty crazy that places like that still exist, but that's what it is.
Well, let's talk about Lake Andre, Smallwood Reservoir, and the Mackenzie River. What is it that makes those fish so big, meaning those landlocked salmon get?
Well, before they flooded, okay, because the Smallwood Reservoir is the 9th largest body of water in Canada at over 2,600 square miles of basically unpopulated watershed. It's the largest hydroelectric reservoir in Canada, and prior to them bringing up the water level, the Mackenzie River was the headwaters and spawning tributary for Lobstick Lake. Lobstick Lake had the world record of landlocked Atlantic salmon, I believe, at 21 pounds, 9 ounce for a long time.
Landlocked Atlantic
Landlocked Atlantic salmon.
Right.
And the Mackenzie is the spawning tributary. So in that geographical area, we are blessed with the beautiful run of salmon coming out of the Smallwood Reservoir. Some other rivers around us do not have any because they didn't have any prior to the flooding of the lakes.
Right.
They flooded over 110 lakes.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because I look at a lot of the different lodges and they're all great.
Yes.
You know, you think of lodges like Three Rivers Lodge.
Yes.
Giant brook trout. They're showing them even this week. Beautiful brook trout. But there's not one photograph of a big salmon because they're just not there.
That's correct.
And that's the one card that I think is really unique to your offering and your lodge. And if you're fishing the pool, you might be thinking you're going to catch a brook trout and all of a sudden you have a 12-pound landlocked salmon on out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
And they are, catching a big salmon like that, Paul. I mean, you've caught them, I've caught them. How do you describe it?
Me, I'll tell you the truth. Me, it's my favorite fish to fish for.
Right.
You get the spectacular fight of a sea ran Atlantic salmon, but they're as aggressive as a northern pike. They'll chase a mouse. They'll chase a caddis skittering across the surface. And me, the best description I tell people is that when you fish the Mackenzie, you actually hunt the Mackenzie.
I like that.
You hunt them. You change pools. And I love fishing for landlocked salmon. And my strategy was very simple. Cast streamers, mainly streamers. And I'll get to a pool when I'm guiding. 2 different flies, 2 different colors. Do a pass the same way as Atlantic salmon, except that we strip. And if they're there, they'll either take or show themselves. And if they don't, we move.
That makes sense.
And we just keep moving until we find them. But the place is a bag of surprises. The first time I went there, we caught only brook trout. And I was a bit disappointed, but we were catching a lot of par. And then I flew back up to accompany a guest that was coming for the 4th time that knew where to go. And I flew up the river with a beaver. I paid for a beaver to fly me up the river, and I took pictures of every pool just to know where I had to go the next day because I'd never been there before. And what did I see in the pools? Weeds. And I thought to myself, I bought a pike fishery. But that day we caught 14 large landlocked Atlantic salmon.
Right.
And I knew what I had.
Right.
I knew what I had. And last year we had this young man there. And when I say that it's a bag of surprises, we've got this pool called Warren's Rock that there's almost always big brook trout there. And with a 16 Adams, he caught a 15-pound landlocked salmon.
Right. On a dry fly.
On a dry fly waiting.
Yeah. The young man was a client.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a native landlocked Atlantic salmon.
Understood.
There's not many places in the world that happens.
I can't think of any.
No.
Right.
No.
We got ahead of ourselves, and you and I can do that because we love to talk fishing. Let's back up a little bit to who Paul is in terms of where did you grow up?
Okay. My father was in the military.
Yep.
My father flew anti-submarine patrols off the East Coast. So I was born in Prince Edward Island. My father's French-Canadian. My mother's English, London, England. So I was brought up perfectly bilingual. We moved to Montreal when I was 5 years old. My father worked for Pratt & Whitney. Mm-hmm. And I started fishing when I was 4. I caught my first trout in the Dunk River in Prince Edward Island when I was 4 years old. I started fly fishing with my father when I was 12. And I became a maniac, an absolute maniac. But I'd say there's one book that changed my life. My parents bought me for Christmas. I believe it was called A.J. McLean's Fishing Around the World.
Yes.
And I dreamed for 1,000,000 hours of becoming a traveling angler. So that became my favorite sport.
But that's not what your profession became.
No, my father pushed me to get a trade and to go work at Pratt & Whitney. I'm a machinist and a CNC programmer. And what happened is when I finished my training in the trade, we were in a recession. I couldn't get into Pratt & Whitney, so I started working for an industrial distributor. I worked there for 20 years, and then I bought it. And then that's when the beginning of the folly really started, is that all of a sudden, me and my younger brother bought it, and the business exploded, and I had a lot of money. And a friend of mine spoke to me about this camp in Labrador that was up for sale. And it was that combination of brook trout and landlocked salmon that really was the ticker for me.
What did he know about it? How did he know about it?
He had a fly fishing magazine, and he had visited it to do a story. And the gentleman was aging and wanted to sell it, and I knew him well. He's an outstanding angler, and he said, "Paul, this is one of the best places, one of the best brook trout fisheries I've ever seen." And they didn't even catch any landlocked. We had just been told about it, and as crazy as this might seem, I bought it without visiting it.
I believe it.
I bought it on pure passion and trust of my friend who had experienced it,
And on speculation that it might be good.
and on speculation. And listen, when we got up there, it was basically a caribou hunting camp, because caribou was big business in northern Canada at the time. It had never seen more than 12 to 14 anglers a year. And that's where I came up with the name Labrador's Best Kept Secret, because no one knew where it was. And when I started doing fly fishing shows in the United States, like Marlborough and Somerset, nobody had ever heard of it. They knew where Three Rivers were. They knew where Manipi was, or Crooks, or Osprey.
Osprey, yeah.
But nobody knew about the Mackenzie.
I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
And now I can't get it out of my mind, but you keep going.
It's unique.
Let's back up to, what did you find when you showed up? I know you said it was a caribou camp, but I know what it is now. It's actually a really high functioning camp with the power source now being changed over from diesel generator to solar, a lot of improvements. So take me from day one when you first walked in.
Okay. So I first get up there, and the buildings are essentially exactly the same. Okay. But, the roof's leaked, and the generator was pretty old. And so I started fixing everything and changed the boats. The aluminum boats were all leaky. They were 2-stroke engines. So I changed to 4 strokes. I bought the beautiful Quebec Northwest freighters. Mm-hmm. Okay. They were a job to get in there. We can talk about that later.
Which is basically like a giant Grand Laker canoe.
Exactly.
We call them freighters in Canada, but it's really a giant canoe that can handle up to 4 or 5 people.
That's exactly it. And I bought 4 of them. I put in 2 18-footers for the river with V-sterns, and those run 8 horsepower engines. And the 2 20 horsepowers, well, they stayed on the dock for 2 years because the float plane company could no longer fly them in there legally. So
tell me this story.
Yeah,
you told me this in Montreal.
Yeah.
Tell me this story, or tell our audience this story.
Well, what we did is we went by van, by truck. My head guide, Fred Gillis, it was Fred Gillis, Bert Gillis, myself, and one of my employees from Montreal, Christopher Burrows. And we went by truck to the lobstick structure, which is the biggest weir on the reservoir. Waited for the weather to get good, and we crossed the reservoir and brought him up the Mackenzie. And that took us 2 days, and it was GPS, shotguns, and enough food for a couple of days. It was hard work, and my mother made me promise her that I'd call her at night with the sat phone, because at that time we didn't have the technology that we have today. But yeah, that's how we got him in there. And since then, I mean, 1 year I was filming for the New Fly Fisher. I think it was the first time I was there with Colin McEwen, filming the landlocked salmon in September, and our generator died. Okay. And the previous owner told me there's a generator at the other camp, because I actually have 3 camps on a distance of 40 miles. One of them is abandoned. So we got an otter to come in, a propeller, piston otter at the time, flew to that other place, loaded a diesel generator in the otter, no dock, arms.
Wow.
3 of us.
Wow.
Okay. With wood and plywood, and brought it up to the camp, and it didn't work.
Is this downstream from the main?
Yeah. Right on the reservoir. I have a lodge. It's abandoned.
Yeah.
But I have an outfitting permit. on an island where the Mackenzie flows into Smallwood.
Sure.
And then I have another permit about 15 miles up on Montgomery Lake where the Comeback River flows in. And those are just platforms that were used for caribou hunting at the time. And that particular location, I have given the permission to the indigenous people to use it as a trapping camp.
Sure.
The Innu were the natives that live in that area. But no, it was just constant fixing and improving and fixing and improving. There was no trails. There's no trails anywhere.
No.
All the trails that are there now, we cut them by hand, by
Yeah.
chainsaw, and cleared it.
You've done a great job. The walking paths, where you have a real wet spot, you guys have built walkways.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is definitely not the place to go if you're someone that has a hard time walking or with balance. We're very upfront,
Yeah.
both Tom Ackerman and I, when we're talking
Yeah.
with people about your offering, we're very upfront to say, if you need to fish out of a boat all week, probably not the best place to go.
Agreed.
But if you can walk, you're going to see some of the best fishing you will ever see for what used to live in Maine 150 years ago,
Yeah.
which is giant ouananiche or landlocked salmon and brook trout. Now, I also remember, I'm just going to keep going back
Yeah,
down memory
yeah.
lane with you. You told me that you had a break-in at one point, so maybe people came in with a snowmobile?
You know what? We'll never know exactly, but the year that COVID hit, okay, my team flew in and they called me and yeah, we've been broken into, and they took every outboard engine, a couple of generators, our solar system, our inverters, our batteries, all our power tools, our chainsaws, everything.
Terrible.
And then COVID hit and we were shut down. I was shut down for 2 years. But I wouldn't say I'm happy that happened, but if COVID hadn't hit, I had a serious problem because I was sold out and I didn't even have any outboard engines left.
Right.
So I actually kept my staff in for that year, and I paid them an entire season the following year just to do renovations so that I didn't lose my team.
Right.
Because really good guides are hard to find. The other break-ins that we've had are bears, and that's happened several times.
Yeah.
Nuisance animals.
Right. Okay. Paul, tell me a little bit of a description of the river without getting into too much detail about every rock and every pool.
Yep.
But take me from, we have the Comeback, which is a tributary coming into Andre Lake.
Yep.
We have the Quartzite, and then you have the main body of the Mackenzie.
Yep.
Take me through each one of those, if you would.
Okay. The Comeback, which I guess you could call the headwaters, is a very, very, I would say a small tributary. It's not very deep. I'd say maybe in the deepest place, it might be 3.5 feet deep.
Right.
And it's more of a shale bottom.
Yeah.
It's easier to wade. It's surprising. One of the pools, we called it the honey hole. It's about maybe, 40 feet long and 25 feet wide. And we've caught brook trout over 7 pounds there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And landlocked salmon go up in there as well.
There's par in it.
Okay.
But oddly enough, we do catch landlocked salmon, but rarely. And then there's the bottom part of it. That's about half a dozen small pools. It's really, really nice to fish with dry flies. And then a 10-minute walk through the boreal forest where at that place, it's really beautiful because it's all lichen
Yes.
and fireweed.
Yes.
And then there's another couple of pools where we've done really well too.
Yeah.
And then you cross a little lake if you want, and then you get to the Marion. And there's only 4 pools. But last year, like I said, they went to film there with the new fly fisher and they got 16 brookies over 4 pounds.
Right.
And where that river, call it a river, a stretch of river, maybe about, 100 feet long, goes into the lake, we almost always catch big landlocks there for whatever reason.
On.
Yeah.
I've been up, Alex took me up to before the Marion.
Yeah.
So there's kind of almost like a pond there or a lake.
Exactly.
And so that's as far up of the Comeback I've gone.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Quartzite.
Quartzite, short stretch of river, very, very strong current with like pockets below. I wouldn't call it a waterfall, but you've been there before.
Yeah, yeah.
And once again, it's the same thing, is that the fish just pile up there, especially if there's if the water gets warm. Okay. In what we'll call the spring, late June, the fast water goes down and it piles into a bowl. That place can be absolutely golden in June. for landlocked salmon and what you call togue.
Mhm.
There's a hatch of black quills. And in all of our rivers, we have a hatch of giant stoneflies. We have stoneflies that can be 2 inches long.
Right.
And when both the black quill and the stonefly nymphs migrate to shore to hatch, and they get taken away by the current, and you'll catch lake trout, and they're spitting them up.
Yeah.
They're spitting them up.
Yeah.
And at that point, honestly, I don't think it really matters what fly you use, but a black woolly bugger is particularly good
Sure.
because it looks like the nymphs.
Yeah. You're talking about at what we would call the lunch spot, the lunch hole.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But it's only good when the water's high. When the water goes down a bit, the fish tend to concentrate just below that waterfall.
Yeah.
It's golden.
Yes, it is.
And then the Mackenzie is it's a lot bigger by the time we get there. And we've broken that down. I break it down into 4 sections. The first part is those 3 or 4 beautiful classic pools that some people say are the best in Labrador, that the brook trout pile up in over the summer and eventually spawn there. We also get landlocks there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to the mouse hole, which you fish, which is a natural funnel,
Mm-hmm.
which we get beautiful fish of both types. And then you've got the pocket water, that long rapid, where if you're healthy and the water goes down, you can literally wade all over it and then just pick every pocket with either a nymph or a dry fly. And it's just marvelous.
This is above salmon pool.
It's right after salmon hole.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Right after salmon hole.
Yep.
And actually, in that part of the river, that's where the largest brook trout ever caught on the Mackenzie was caught in the 2 pools we call the twins at 9 pounds, 4 ounces. That's a brute.
Yeah.
And then as you go further down the river, like where the funnel is, the funnel and below that, that for whatever reason, that's like the fish migrating up. We get the fish that are migrating up. And my way of looking at that, like last week they went, and there's almost always a few fish at Warren's Rock, and sometimes in what we call the shoot pool there.
Yes.
But what my way of fishing that was when I was guiding is when I got to the canoe launch,
Mhm.
by mid-July, I'd always cross to the funnel, okay?
Yep.
And fish the funnel. The back of the funnel would usually hold a couple of brookies, but as soon as I started to catch landlocked salmon in the funnel, that told me the run is on. And then that part of the river becomes the best part of the river for big landlocked salmon. Like that's where they got the 15-pounder last year. And Tomo got one that he says was even bigger in the elbow pool.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So I've been going earlier in the season, and the best fishing has always been in the upper river. And we say sometimes especially in English, I don't know if you can appreciate this, but we say that the juice isn't worth the squeeze. In other words, it's a long walk for slow fishing if they're not down there.
Yeah.
But I've also had Alex and I went down last year and caught some beautiful brook trout. There weren't any salmon in there yet.
Yeah.
But I've caught tremendous salmon in the upper river early season. But again, so what's below that on the Mackenzie?
Well, you go past the elbow pool, and then there's another really shallow, wide pond.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hit what they call the flat rapid.
Mm-hmm.
And the flat rapid is clearly spawning territory for landlocked Atlantic salmon. We almost never catch any brook trout there. And that's what you just said about it being too much work. It's definitely too much work because it ends up being like a 16 to 18,000 step day to go up there.
That's right.
But when the salmon run is in,
it's worth a squeeze.
It's worth the squeeze. If the water's up and the salmon are running up that river, my best week, me and Fred Gillis, 4 anglers, was 94 landlocked salmon over 5 pounds in 1 week.
Yeah.
All between 5 and 14.
What week of the year was that?
That was the last week, the first week of September.
Right. Yeah. That's when everyone's there wearing a tuxedo.
But it's like, I used to give a presentation on the Mackenzie at the fly fishing shows that I called Seasons on the Mackenzie because it changes
so much.
And by the time you get to that point of the year, it's literally 90% landlocks. And if you're going to get a brookie, they'll be really big and colorful, and usually males, and they're moving through.
Right. They're in transition.
Yeah. So you just fish with streamers everywhere, and whatever bites, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And actually, when I talk about Warren's Rock, there's a good story there. Is that we had a customer that would come every year, the last week, and his name was Warren Hall, and he was from Maine. He ran Bobuck's
camps.
He ran Bobuck's camps, and he'd always come to the Mackenzie at the end of the year because he liked catching landlocked salmon. Okay, and what happened was that pool wasn't named, and actually,
but it's for reference, it's Bobuck camps. Bobuck camps. Sorry,
but him and his friend, they hooked up a double, and him it was 11 pounds 4, and the other one was 10 pound 8.
So
double hookup.
How do you weigh these fish? You don't kill them, obviously.
No, we'd have scales.
Yeah.
We had scales. We'd weigh the net.
Yeah.
And then release them. Yeah, we don't kill anything.
No, I love that.
Kill anything.
This is great stuff. I'm having a great conversation with you.
Yeah, you can see that in my eyes sparkle when I talk about it.
Mine too. And I'm getting ready to go there tomorrow.
We have the same sickness.
Yeah. Huh? And I'm going to hardly sleep tonight. I think we're at a good point to take a break. We've talked a lot about the Mackenzie. I do want to just make one point of reference for the audience. The Comeback River would be similar to what we would think of as the Kennebago River, where it's shallow and easy wading.
Yeah.
The Quartzsite would be more like the Rapid River, where it's boulders, white water. You could have a fish coming out of water that you can't even see through because there's so much white water. And these brook trout live in this turbulence.
That's correct.
Big 5-6 pound brook trout come racing out behind a rock to grab either a streamer. We do a lot of nymphing on the Quartzsite.
Yeah.
We do a lot of nymphing on the Rapid River. But nothing describes the Mackenzie in Maine. Mackenzie River is bigger, but I can, at normal flows, I can walk across the Mackenzie in a lot of places.
Most of it.
Right.
Most of it.
I think it's really, it's wade access, but it's very wadeable.
But as you said before, though, and what I tell customers is that you'll get out of the Mackenzie, or you'll get out of the Mackenzie River Lodge what you can put into it.
That's a good way of putting it.
If you're healthy and can walk and like to wade, if what you like to do is wade and fish a river and you're able to walk, you'll love the Mackenzie. But you have to be healthy to get everything it can offer. That's what I believe.
Thank you for sharing that, Paul. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about some of the other things that you're doing, because you've built this up into a little bit of an enterprise. It's not just Mackenzie River Lodge.
That's correct.
So let's take a quick break and we'll come back.
Okay.
In this Flyline flashback, we explore the history of Harris Station, Maine's largest hydroelectric dam, and how it transformed the Kennebec River from efficient timber runs to whitewater thrills. Built between 1952 and 1954 by Central Maine Power and named for Chief Engineer Ford Harris, the station was completed in 1955 and brought a new era of energy, industry, and adventure to the region. Back in the early 1950s, Maine's power grid was strained under the pressure of post-war growth. CMP turned its attention to Indian Pond, then a quiet section of the Kennebec River with only a modest timber dam in place. Their vision was bold: replace the small structure with a concrete hydro station capable of anchoring the state's electric future while also managing river flow for downstream mills. Before the gates closed, crews had to move fast, clearing 2,500 acres of forest and wetland along the future Indian Pond shoreline to ensure that the new reservoir could rise smoothly and safely. Once completed, Harris Station provided reliable power and helped regulate the working river, even extending the life of the log drive tradition until the final log drive of 1976. That same year, a new chapter began, this time led not by loggers and log drivers, but by a new group of river enthusiasts. In 1976, local guide and savvy entrepreneur Wayne Hochmeyer, with a pilot's eye and a pioneer's spirit, flew over the Kennebec Gorge and saw its whitewater potential from the sky. He soon returned with an ex-military inflatable raft and ran the river himself. That bold trip marked the start of commercial rafting in Maine. Wayne's company, Kennebec Whitewater Expeditions, now known as Northern Outdoors, ran the first guided rafting trips below Harris Station. The dam's scheduled water releases created world-class rapids that drew thrill seekers from across the country. What began with one raft has since grown into a thriving industry, with outfitters running trips from May through October. Today, the Harris Station Dam doesn't just power Maine, it powers a tourism economy and a cultural legacy of outdoor adventure. And as for Wayne Hochmeyer, beyond the rapids, he also made waves as the creator of the Banjo Minnow, one of the most successful fishing lures ever sold on television. From electricity to adrenaline, Harris Station continues to shape the story of the Kennebec River. And now, back to the second half of this episode. Paul, getting to Mackenzie River Lodge from New England was very easy. I drove up today through Jackman into Quebec. It was a wonderful ride. Take me from Quebec. What you really arrange everything from Quebec City?
Yes, we do. I think that most of our customers are busy like I am, and the easier we can make it, the better. And flying to remote areas, getting the tickets, etc., is easier for us because we live here. So what I did is I put the flights from Montreal or Quebec City in the package. All you have to do is either drive to Quebec City from Maine, but we get a lot of customers also from New York, Vermont, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they come from, this year I've got Texas, Colorado, California.
I can imagine.
They fly to Montreal, overnight in Montreal. The next day they get in a plane and all they have to do is get to Montreal and we look after all the rest. Fly to Wabush. And then from Wabush, someone will meet you at the airport, bring you to the liquor store.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's straight to the float plane.
Yeah. It's like minutes from the airport.
That's correct.
The aerodrome is literally, you don't even get out of third
correct.
gear.
That's correct. And then from there, it's either a turbine-powered de Havilland Otter
mm-hmm.
or a turbine-powered Cessna Caravan, Grand Caravan.
Yeah.
And then after your week, well, you fly out early in the afternoon, and then you're back either in Quebec City or Montreal in the evening.
Right.
It's just the best way to run it, I think.
It's
and
easy.
By next year, I'm planning to look after the wine and beer orders also, pre-order.
Yeah.
And flies, etc.
Yeah.
To make it easier for travelers again.
Right. Because you are now having Wabush or Labrador City, that is evolving, that there's actually a microbrew there.
Yes. It's a functioning community. It's actually getting easier and easier to run a lodge out of there.
Yeah.
You've got, several commercial flights a day from Montreal or Quebec City. Yeah, there's a local brewery, there's okay restaurants, there's a Walmart, there's grocery stores, there's an IGA, and now
there's a McDonald's.
And now with the technology, I mean, if I look at the beginning when I'd fly in there and we had a Mitsubishi sat phone that didn't work every day, and then now we've got Starlink, we've got a CRM, we order online and pick it up, and it's easy.
It's great.
It's really become easy.
There's one other thing I wanted to touch on about Mackenzie before we move on to your other lodges that you've started up, because they're very interesting and the audience needs to know about them. You used to fly in, I want to say, diesel fuel for generators.
Yes.
And that's an overhead expense and weight. And
yes, sir. Yeah.
Talk to me about what happened and where it's at now. What are you doing there?
The biggest expense of running a lodge in such a remote area, and not to compare negatively, but some of my friends go to Patagonia and they say, yeah, but Paul, they do this and they do that. And I'm saying, yeah, but they can drive to a store. Their employees go home every night and drive back to work. My employees are in there for the whole summer. Everything comes in by float plane. Bottled water and gasoline ends up costing about $25 a gallon by the time it gets there. So anything you can do to lower the quantity of float plane trips makes the difference between making a bit of money and not. So what we did is we changed to a solar system. We cook with propane. The hot water is propane on demand. And we've got a pretty good solar system. I think we've got 15 kilowatts of lithium-ion batteries now, and a diesel generator only to recharge the batteries when there's not enough sunlight.
Right.
And what that did is it gives you electricity 24 hours a day for even applications like a CPAP, which we have more and more people using, of course, as the population ages. And last year, with 4-stroke engines, and a lot of our fishing is walking and wading, last year we used 2 drums of gasoline and 1 drum of diesel.
Compared to
6 propane. That's it.
compared to
Oh, we were using a drum of diesel a week.
right.
And then just to put things in perspective, from Wabush, from the aerodrome to our lodge is 126 miles. So I could put 3 drums of diesel in a plane. So $1,400 of diesel costs $5,600 of float plane.
What's
That's it.
What's a can of beer cost? You must have done the math on that. What's it take to get a can of beer into Mackenzie?
Well, the beer costs me about $5.50 Canadian. But if you take a gallon, it's 10 pounds. We'll just do a mathematical equation. I can put 2,200 pounds in an otter. So 2,200, it costs $2.50 a pound. So I don't know how many.
16 ounces. Yeah.
That's basically,
That's just to fly it.
that's just to fly it in there.
Right. So a $5 beer is now $7.50 just to get it to Mackenzie
correct.
River Lodge. Yeah. I get it.
That's correct.
I love it.
That's correct.
Well, let's, you've taken on you're starting to spread out a little bit.
Yeah.
You're a Inukshuk Lodge. That's not a real, I mean, it is, Arctic char,
That's correct.
and it's a destination up in Ongava Bay.
Yeah, it's the northernmost outfitter operating in Quebec. And another detail I can mention too is that I'm really, really implicated in the fishing industry in Quebec. I'm the representative from Northern Quebec on the board of directors of the Quebec Federation of Outfitters. Okay, and so I'm operating. I own Inukshuk Lodge. Inukshuk Lodge is Arctic char. The average is about 12 pounds.
Yeah, they're big.
But we get them from anywhere from, say, 5 pounds to 20 pounds.
Mhm.
But it's fishing in the ocean, okay? The tides can be as high as 40 feet.
Right.
It's polar bear country.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is it's kind of like fishing for striped bass. You're looking for the fish on tide lines, fishing the current lines as the
Stripers
tide
would do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
as the tide changes. It's very remote, very quiet. It's an unbelievable experience. Absolutely unbelievable.
It looks to me more like someone who would really like to be out on the fringe, way out, really get in the outback. In your case, the Big Land.
Oh yeah.
You're going to see a place that doesn't see many humans,
No, it's
and they land on dirt up there, right?
we land on dirt. That trip is Montreal to Kuujjuaq, which used to be called Fort Chimo. So it's a flight on a 737, 2.25 hour flight from Montreal, and then it's about a 40-minute flight in a de Havilland Twin Otter on wheels. That's correct. We have a 900-foot landing strip.
All right.
Yeah, and there you're going out in 24-foot freighters.
Yeah. I
actually have 2 Inuit guides that grew up there, Andy and Thomas, and the other ones are French Canadian. And but it's as remote, as rough an operation as you're ever going to see, but we've made it really, really comfortable and really, really safe.
Tell me about the buildings.
The buildings are Quonset huts, okay? But we've renovated them where the floors are insulated, the walls are insulated. It's propane heating with a thermostat, hot water on demand. And there again, we have a diesel generator and a solar system. So we have electricity 24 hours a day. Now we're expanding with help from the Quebec government. And I built, the platforms have just been built, and we're adding 3 domes.
Oh, yeah.
4-season domes,
Yeah.
where people will be able to sleep there. And you're looking straight out onto the ocean in the Arctic. You can wake up in the morning and see belugas swim by, seals swim by, and but we're well equipped.
And I also noticed that the landscape is different. It's almost barren.
We're above the tree line.
Right. You're
Yeah.
above the tree line.
We're above the tree line.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah. Well, it's a different market than I was used to, where, Mackenzie, okay, because I can be brutally honest. This is the truth of Mackenzie. Mackenzie is fly fishermen.
Yeah.
Only fly fishermen.
Yeah.
Fly fishing maniacs. I'd say probably 95% men. Okay. In Inukshuk, we get couples. We get couples where often it's the husband that wants to fish, and the wife won't go to Mackenzie because she's not into fishing and doesn't want to walk, but but I'll go to the Arctic. I'd like to see the Arctic. I'd like to see the
And the
Inuit. I'd
hiking-
like to see polar bears.
The hiking looks beautiful.
Well, right now, I have a crew right now. I'm in a program that my better half runs in Quebec called the Northern Incubator Accelerator, where the Quebec government put $23 million into tourism to help tourism. And they've helped us with a geograph to identify trails. And my guides right now are doing those trails and camping out on the tundra. And that's going to be one of the activities that we plan to offer. Part of the outfitter is on a biodiversity reserve.
Yeah.
It's protected forever. Quebec is protecting 1/3 of its territory from any development. It's called the Marais Maritime. And what it is, it's an Arctic floodplain. So there's an abundance of wildlife, birds, and flora. So we're planning to offer hiking in there for wildlife photography, actually, to help us stretch out the season also.
You do well to get someone from like Outside Magazine to come as a guest to do a photo shoot and a story, because it really is magical. I've seen the photos, you shared them with me, and I could have looked at them on your website, and it's just, I think you were really just starting to dip your toes into that maybe 4 or 5 years ago when we first met, and it's really evolved.
Yeah, no, it has. And it's all part of my business plan of expansion, because, see, once again, I'll compare with, say, Patagonia, okay? In Patagonia, some of the outfitters group together. And a good example is, say, Nervous Waters or Untamed Angling. So not only is their season longer, they operate multiple lodges. And then what that does is that it gives you cash flow. It gives you cash flow to have permanent staff. Permanent staff like I've now been able to do with operating 3 at the same time. So I've got Paul Nicholson, who's always there to help with logistics and answer customers' questions. I've got a full-time bookkeeper now, and the expansion is going to continue. Inukshuk allows us to branch out into what is a growing market. Fly fishing is pretty stable. Ecotourism is exploding.
It is.
It's exploding.
Right.
So that's kind of the direction we're going to take, where it's going to be a combination where the best weeks will be offered for fishing and fly fishing. And then it allows us to lengthen our season by having a mixture of fishing, wildlife observation, and hiking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good fit.
Yeah, I believe so. I hope so.
But that's not your only enterprise, Mackenzie or Inukshuk. You are working on a new endeavor now.
Yeah, I'm flying up to Kuujjuaq on the 20th, and on the 21st, I fly in with, we call it our shock crew, some of my very best guides, and we're reopening the outfitter on the Delay River, which has been closed for 7 years.
The lodge or the river?
The lodge has the rights to the entire Delay River and its tributaries. The Dugay River, the Delay River flows into the Dugay River. We've got all the Delay, all the Dugay. The Dugay flows into the Larch River, and we've got all the larch between the 2 sanctuaries for the salmon. There's 2 salmon spawning sanctuaries, and that ends up becoming the Coxsowak, which is a couple of miles wide by the time it hits the ocean. This is the largest Atlantic salmon run in northern Quebec, and the Delay is, without any doubt, one of the best remaining Atlantic salmon rivers left in the world. The reason that it closed is that it's when the caribou hunt closed. It's because the money in northern Quebec was in the caribou hunting. There was over 20,000 hunters a year coming to Quebec to hunt for caribou, and that's what they concentrated on. And
meaning the lodge with its previous ownership.
Yes, it was a caribou hunting operation, and once you'd killed your 2 bulls, you just fish for Atlantic salmon or fish for brook trout, because it's also very good for brook trout. There's Atlantic salmon, landlocked salmon, brook trout, lake trout, and oddly enough, northern pike.
Kind of like Mackenzie, but with Atlantic salmon.
With migratory Atlantic salmon. And the Delay is unique in that the Delay has 2 bloodlines. I don't know if you'd call it 2 populations of salmon. Some of them never leave the estuary, and some of them go out to the ocean. But the rivers of northern Quebec, one of the particularities is that The salmon in northern Quebec don't leave Canadian waters. They stay in Ungava Bay, and there's no commercial fishing. So the rivers of northern Quebec are not seeing a decline in the runs. We believe we're seeing an increase in the runs as the climate warming seems to be improving their habitat. We're seeing more fish, and we're seeing bigger fish.
Wow.
The fish are getting bigger.
And that's the opposite for like the Miramichi, the Restigouche,
Yeah.
all the other rivers that we think of, they're kind of the household names. And they don't think of, so what do you think is, I know you said global warming, but I think a lot of it's proximity. The habitat hasn't been messed up. You don't have dams. You don't have stripers in Ungava Bay yet.
No. It's totally intact. The Delay River is about as remote a destination that as exists on the planet. It's completely wild. And honestly, we're only going to be fishing maybe 10 miles each way from the lodge, and we have 70 miles of water. Most of it, the only way to get there is by helicopter. Now I have 2 guests coming up this year with helicopters so that they can go access those other rivers. And there are actually camps up down there, but they've been abandoned for a long time. So part of our project is to eventually open, especially the camp on the Larch River, which is, it's good. And to give you an idea that the catch rate for this river, and we don't expect it to have changed, we think it might even be better, is that the catch rate historically on this river forever when they operated it was 2.5 to 3.5 fish a day per angler.
Yeah.
For the whole season.
I've read that.
Yeah, it was always number 1 in Quebec.
So if I don't come with my own helicopter, Paul, and you and I went up there, how do we fish the rivers?
We have freighter canoes. Once again, those big canoes, the same thing, 20-footers. And there what you do is you travel by boat. It's a much bigger river than the Mackenzie. So we travel to the pools by boat, get out and wade. And these rivers in northern Quebec are good rivers for 2-handed rods, but every tributary up there is full of brook trout.
Oh, no kidding.
Everyone.
Yeah.
It's brook trout everywhere. They don't tend to be as large as Labrador. The average would more be like in the 1.5 to 3.5 pound, but it's abundance.
Yeah.
It's abundance.
Yeah.
In September, as a bonus too, is that the Delay River is also a biodiversity reserve. It's protected also because it's one of the main corridors for the caribou migration of the Leaf River herd. So the anglers that are coming this year in September, they can expect to see possibly hundreds of caribou.
Are they hunting caribou anymore? I'm glad.
No.
I'm glad.
No.
Across Labrador.
Anywhere in the Northeast, it's closed.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
So is it helping the herd?
Yes.
It can't hurt the herd. It has to help.
No, it's the George River herd is starting to rebound now. The George River herd at its height, which is the herd that was going to Mackenzie, was the largest migratory herd of any kind in the world at close to 900,000 animals. It went down to 12,000. Okay. We believe it's a natural cycle. The Leaf River was 400,000. It's at about 250,000 now.
Yeah.
But I had the privilege of fishing the Leaf a couple of years ago with my life partner, Anne. And I'm telling you, it's something that you have to live it, to believe it. I mean, we're having dinner and we're walking out on the balcony and seeing hundreds of caribou walk by the cabins and that.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of fly fishing is that, some people don't get catch and release. And some people will say, well, why would you spend so much money to go to a place and you can't bring back any fish? And my answer to that is that, and you understand, that's not why we go.
No.
It's that fly fishing becomes the pretext to visit places that haven't been destroyed yet, that are still, and that's, I would say that's what drives me now. I think that the manta or what our company does is we bring people fishing in the most remote regions of Eastern North America and keep it safe and comfortable.
And you do it well. And you do it
Thank you.
honestly, Paul. I mean, I've done business with you now long enough, and some of my other, like Tom Ackerman, we really appreciate your honesty. And I think it's been a good recipe for success for you with your client base in New England, because New Englanders are honest. and they can spot a bullshit artist from a mile away, and you ain't no bullshit artist.
No, I'm not a bullshit artist.
Yeah, and you always tell it the way it is, and I appreciate that. You'll say, Mike, this isn't going to be there. I remember the first time you said, it's not a lodge. It's a glorified camp.
It was called a lodge when I bought it, so I kept the same name.
Yeah.
It's a really nice camp.
Yeah, it's a really nice campus, right?
But it's a camp.
Yeah, but everyone's comfortable in a camp.
Yeah. It's just enough. And people have said that. They don't need more. What do you need? It's really comfortable and warm.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Great food this year.
Yes.
I've heard you've got a new cook in that is just over the moon.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Anne earlier.
Yeah.
Tell me about Anne.
Okay.
Tell me how you met Anne.
She'll be embarrassed.
That's
okay.
all right. Let's embarrass Anne.
Okay. They called a board of directors meeting for the Quebec Federation of Outfitter. We have board of directors meetings, at regular intervals. And when we were there, and one of the subjects was, we're going to introduce the new director of the Northern Incubator Accelerator Program, which is, it's a program, like I said, to develop tourism, but it's a three-prong program. It's Indigenous tourism, Quebec Eco-Adventure Tourism, and the Outfitters. But the Outfitters Federation runs the money. So they come and present Anne Lemieux to the board of directors members. And I remember that the gentleman sitting next to me, one of my friends, Jean-Claude Farrar, who owns a lodge in Mauricie, I said, holy, where did they find her? Because I thought she was just so stunningly beautiful. Afterwards, we had, a wine and cheese thing. And I actually tried to convince her to come out to dinner with us, with the board members. And she said no. And about a year and a half passed. And we were both sent to Coujwac. I go to Coujwac to represent the Outfitters at the board of directors of the Nunavut Tourism Association, which is the Inuit Tourism Board. And she was there to talk for her program. And honestly, we just had fun. I wasn't cruising her. We just had fun. But we hit it off. Yeah. And we've been a couple ever since. And I've said to people is that honestly, okay? One of my best friends said to me, and this will make people laugh, but it's true. He said, why did you buy a lodge, Paul? I said, well, I like fishing. And he says, yeah, but you like going to a restaurant, right? I said, yeah. Paul, you don't have to own a restaurant to eat out. Okay? So you could have just done fishing trips instead of giving yourself all the trouble of running a lodge. But what the lodge has done for me is I've met a lot of really, really nice people. And when you're a young boy growing up, a maniac of fishing and dreaming of fishing, well, I met people from all over the world. I did television shows. Look, right now I'm doing a podcast, and that side of it was wonderful. And I never would have met Anne.
Right.
I never would have met Anne.
Doesn't fishing bring us to just some of the greatest experiences in life and some of the best people I've met through fly fishing?
I agree. You get in a lodge and everybody's happy. Everybody's going there for the right reasons. And no, it's wonderful.
Don't you think?
No regrets.
I think people are generally on their best behavior when they go on a fishing trip.
Yeah.
Even if it's a weekend trip to Rangeley or they're going to do a bucket list trip like coming to your lodge in Canada.
Yeah.
And so, Paul, I know one of the things that you also do really well is you do some networking at the shows.
Yes.
So just for our audience, tell us where you plan to be or where you generally go.
Being a catch and release fly fishing destination, okay, and the United States was always my market. Most of my customers have always come from the United States, and I believe it's two reasons that differentiate them from, let's say, Quebecers. First of all, Quebecers, we have so many places to go fishing. There's a lot of, inexpensive places, but Quebecers also, a lot of them, it's changing, but they want to bring home fish, okay? And you cannot kill large females on a brook trout river in the north or the fishery will collapse. The American anglers understood catch and release better than we did a long time ago. And also there's a culture of a traveling angler in the United States that we don't necessarily have in Canada, partly because of guys like A.J. McLean, Kurt Gowdy,
right.
Tom Ackerman.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do I market? I do 3 fly fishing shows. I do the fly fishing show in Marlborough, Massachusetts.
Mhm.
I do the fly fishing show in Edison, New Jersey, and I do the fly fishing show in Denver, Colorado.
Yep.
And that's it.
Denver, Colorado. I didn't know you were
Yeah.
doing that.
I'm doing it. This year is actually the first year. Last year, I had signed up for it.
Yeah.
But my father deceased.
Yeah.
So, and the owner, okay, who's a true gentleman also, when I explained to him that I couldn't make it because of personal reasons,
Sure.
he just gave me a credit for the next year. Ben Ferinsky, who's a sharp man.
That's what
Yeah.
you would do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the way you
Absolutely.
roll.
And I'll tell you, I had, I can talk a lot. I can talk all night about this, but in these fly fishing shows, in the beginning, I was by myself. I was a one-man show. And I'd go there, and it's changed a bit now, but there was a lot of networking to be done in the bar at night. I met all kinds of people. And one of them became a really good friend, Jeff Currier.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. The artist.
The artist
Yeah.
from New Hampshire.
Yep.
Okay. And I was in the bar one night with him, and, I didn't have a lot of sales that year. So I said to him, "You ever been to Labrador?" I said, "No." He says, "Do you want to come?" So I said to him, "I'll make you a deal. I'm going to barter with you. You and your wife come to Labrador, and I get an original work of art."
And he also wrote a nice article for you.
Yes.
A really well read, meaning a lot of people read it, myself included.
He helped me tremendously, and they really had a great week of fishing. And he's coming back as a customer.
Of course.
As a customer.
Paul, I've paid
Testament
to go to
of how good it is.
I've paid the full price to come to your place. This
Yeah.
year I'm hosting a trip because I'm so enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
But if I couldn't get a group together, I'd roll out the money again. It's that good.
Yeah. And another person that I'd like to mention too that helped me tremendously, who left us, went to heaven about a year and a bit, is Colin McEwen. Colin McEwen, the original owner of the New Fly Fisher, helped me tremendously to get on the map and became a very good friend.
Right. So he
Yeah.
ran The New Fly Fisher, which is a television series, but
That's
also
correct.
widely viewed on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir. Great
And then
man.
you just had a group come in from The New Fly Fisher last year.
Yeah.
And they had what looked like a very good week on the river.
They had phenomenal. And like when I say you hunt the Mackenzie, okay? Okay, they went up in the Marion, and it hadn't seen an angler in 6 years, and the pools were full of brookies. It's a migration. The fish are moving through the system. You could go back the next day and get nothing.
Right.
Well, they hit the funnel. And when I tell you that the funnel, when the migration's on, that's just a traditional Atlantic salmon pool. They hit the funnel and they hooked 11
Right.
landlocks,
Right.
big ones.
Right.
And his son got broken off, okay? His son, who was just starting fly fishing, got broken off with an orange bomber and caught the fish 2 days later, and it had the bomber in its
Of
mouth.
course. I love those stories.
Yeah?
Those are great. And,
Yep.
we could go on.
Can I tell you one more story? This is a good one. This will never happen
my arm.
again.
Twist
Okay?
my arm, Paul.
This is not a lie,
Yeah.
because I'm an honest person.
Yeah.
I caught 3 large landlocked Atlantic salmon on one cast.
How?
Okay. We're filming a TV show in the funnel, which is treacherous to wade.
Yeah.
If you move up to the top.
Yeah.
So the cameraman didn't want to come in with the camera. So I'm fishing it and I get a follow. So I told him, there's a landlocked there. I got a follow. He comes in and he sets up his camera. I cast again, strip, hook the fish, bring the fish in and net it. And they're filming the fish. And my line is dangling in the water with 6 feet of line on. And yeah, I hook another one. Okay. So then we got 2 big landlocks in the net. I was fishing with another guy from Maine, John Devon. Okay. Who came multiple times. And John always insisted on fishing with his own bamboo rods. So we go to the next pool, Warren's Rock. And obviously, I've got a guest there, so I'm going to let him fish first. So he catches one and he catches another, and then he felt bad. So he says, Paul, it's your turn. So I weighed out a bit. I never cast. I was just letting out a bit of line so I could cast. And I got another one. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And, that'll never happen again. And
Right.
it's not always like that. And I don't want to make it sound like it's always that good on the Mackenzie.
No.
But every now and then when the water levels are good, it is that good.
Yeah. You can't keep it away
If
from
you're lucky.
You can't keep it away from
Yeah. Just exactly. Just timing, I guess. Timing and destiny,
Well, our timing and destinies worked out well that you can
Yeah.
sit down, share with our audience who you are.
And our passion. Share our passion.
Right.
Our passion for fly fishing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Appreciate
And
it.
thank you for sharing your stories about the lodge and your business, your enterprises, and your new love life. And it just seems like you're hitting all the boxes. You're doing it all right.
I guess I'm lucky.
Yeah, we all are lucky. And thank you for having me up to your lodge
Yep.
this week. I really appreciate it.
Yep.
I look forward to working with your team.
Yep. Thank you. I hope you have a great week.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for joining us for this intimate discussion, and thank you for listening to Flyline Podcast. We're proud to be sponsored by Geiger, the world's largest family-owned promotional products distributor based in Lewiston, Maine. Their support helps us share the rich history of Maine's fishing community through the stories that will be cherished for generations. A new Flyline Podcast episode is released every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, so be sure to come back to meet our next famous guest. Until then, this is Michael Jones, and we invite you to visit the blog section of our website to enjoy photos and contributions from our guests and experience all of the episodes at flylinepodcast.com.